Welcome back, Ronin Renegades. I'm Lupine Fiasco. This is Daily FaB Gameplay. Today we are playing FaB versus Riptide. For anyone who's new to the channel, welcome to the Resistance. What we do here is review replays of games that I played on the Talishar client days or weeks ago, after enough time has passed that I lose my bias and can more objectively judge the quality of my play. I'll talk through turn cycles and give my thoughts on the line I would take now compared to the line I took then at the time of recording. We either learn from my mistakes or reinforce good play patterns with the overall goal of tightening and optimizing our gameplay to take down paper events like the upcoming Calling Los Angeles and, most importantly, walk away with that shiny cardboard. If you'd like to check out the list I'm playing here or try it for yourself on Talishar, a FaB deck link is available in the video description below. While you're down there, if you haven't already done so, please consider subscribing to my channel. A YouTube subscription is the best free way to support me and to make sure that you see daily FaB gameplay in your video feed 5 days a week. The best paid way to support me is through Patreon, and a Patreon link is also in the video description. A Patreon subscription will get you access to the DFG Discord. At higher tiers, your name will appear in every DFG video. You'll get bonus DFG content every week, and there are even more great benefits to come. Daily FaB gameplay will always be free 5 days a week, so for those who can afford to patronize me, I truly appreciate it. Let's talk about our sideboard and about the Riptide game plan. I don't need to tell you that Riptide is a rather underrepresented hero these days. You shouldn't run into him a lot. And when you do, it's important that you know what he has going on. And the answer is traps. Riptide has a million defense reactions, and unfortunately, most of them will trigger against FaB and will take bonus damage as well as having our damage prevented. How are we dealing with this? Well, we want to burst Riptide down. So as far as sideboarding goes, we are going to keep our pouncing links. Mask of Momentum will never, ever trigger because of all of the blocking that Riptide is doing, and Riptide wants to block us anyway. Riptide is totally fine playing out 1 to 2 card hands after having defended with 2 or 3 cards. His reload ability from his hero power means that he can always load an arrow for free after playing a defense reaction from hand, so he doesn't need to keep extra cards in hand to load his bow. He can just block with 3 defense reactions from hand, load an Endless Arrow, a Drill Shot, even an Infecting Shot or a Death Touch from hand. If he has Spring Tunic, he can play whatever arrow for free. So Mask of Momentum, absolutely the wrong call here. This is a long game. We are expecting maybe not to go to fatigue, but we are expecting to be playing for at least 10 turns. Fandal's Spring Tunic could be a good call in this matchup. I might even say that it's correct. My thought going into this game was that I want my Furnace to block cards like Remorseless, Infecting Shot, not so much Drill Shot, but maybe. But it could just be that Riptide doesn't have the on-hit density or quality of a hero like Azalea or Lexi. So Tunic might just be the right call considering how long this game goes. That said, we are playing Furnace in this game. The only swap that we make in our 60 is we are boarding out Tenacity and boarding in Command and Conquer. This might also be wrong. You're going to see in this game, it would have been nice to have a Tenacity to grab with Pouncing Links, and Tenacity wasn't there. And considering that these games can go long, I don't know if the common Riptide build is Fat Stack with Dreadbore, but that is what many Riptides are doing, and it's possibly what they will do to FaB. It might be correct to play 62 cards. Defense reactions are not going to be worth it. We aren't trying to outvalue Riptide, we're trying to kill Riptide, and defense reactions don't help with that. The more defense reactions we put in our deck, the worse Art of War gets. Ancestral Empowerment is a relatively new addition to my deck. I recently cut That All You Got, as I think Ancestral Empowerment helps a little more with the Guardian and Warrior matchups. It could be good here too. The only problem with Ancestral Empowerment is it plays into Riptide's inertia effects that most of the cards in our deck don't trigger. So many of our cards do: Phoenix Flame, Lava Burst, Salt the Wound, anything buffed by Art of War or Spreading Flames. So it might be correct to not play around the inertia effect, but I'm not convinced that Ancestral Empowerment needs to come in as a concession to Riptide's defenses or even just fatigue. But I do think that a 62 card main board is fine against Riptide. For what Riptide is trying to do, it is just outvalue us. Defense reactions that all get at least 4 points of value based on their block value, any triggered effects, and the damage we take from those triggered effects. Play out 1 to 2 card hands based on value, a lot of 0 for 4s, a lot of 1 for 5 to 7, and always having the ability to block. Outside of a Rain Razors, I don't believe there are any cards in Riptide's deck that don't block. So very defensive deck, and we're going to have to punch through that by setting up big turns. We have a little trouble doing that through inertia effects, so we are going to have to think on our feet. Let's start the game and see if we can do just that. We have lost the die roll and will be going first. I don't want to attack. This hand is great. I don't want to give Riptide the ability to filter. I don't want to give Riptide the ability to push any damage on our turn 1 by defending with traps. So we are just going to ship the turn back to Riptide. This hand is great on offense, so there is no need for us to filter cards out of our hand. We can see that Riptide is running 71 cards into us. He has a rather defensive equipment setup. Purge Grapplers, defensive piece of equipment. The Trench of Sunken Treasure is good CNC counterplay, but also does block 1, and is a little less offensive to block with than a Spring Tunic. We also see that Riptide is on New Horizon, as opposed to a Crown of Providence or a Balance of Justice. That is going to let Riptide set up 5 and 6 card hands like we see him doing here. Considering the card in Arsenal is face down, we're fine letting Riptide get the Endless Arrow back. It is essentially an intellect penalty for him because he cannot use the New Horizon effect. Coming back to our turn, we have our Command and Conquer in Arsenal. What I like doing is Brand with Cinderclaw, Blaze Headlong, pick up and play Phoenix Flame, then play Command and Conquer, and Arsenal and Enlightened Strike. We could also look to do something like Brand, Blaze, Emberblade, pick up and play Phoenix Flame, pitch E-Strike to play CNC, but I would rather set up an Arsenal if I can. That's Codex protection. It is allowing us to set up a bigger turn against Riptide, which is what we need to do to punch through those defenses. But our turn does start with Brand with Cinderclaw, and we can see what traps, if any, Riptide has waiting for us. The worst trap for us, Collapsing Trap, we are going to have to discard our hand here. The one thing I want to do is pitch our Nasty Surprise to FaB to pick up a Phoenix Flame. It is going to leave us without the ability to get our Phoenix Flame back this turn for offense, but what it does do is float a resource, which depending on what we draw, we may want to pitch a red to our Emberblade. So I do want to get a resource in my pitch. Collapsing Track triggers, we'll see what we draw into. Another red and a blue. This is actually really good. It's a good setup for us. We're going to follow Brand with Cinderclaw with a Lava Vein Loyalty. We can attack with our Searing Emberblade, and then we can finish up with Command and Conquer. Hopefully, Riptide blocks from hand the defense reaction and reloads from his hero ability. I think what we were supposed to do here was actually lead with Searing Emberblade in case of Frailty Trap. Riptide blocking with the Frailty Trap is a value loss. If the Emberblade now only comes in for 2, but if we play the Lava Vein Loyalty and Riptide Frailty Traps that, then the Emberblade only comes in for 2. And Riptide does get his full value. Thankfully, Riptide does reload with hero ability, so we are going to get value from our Command and Conquer. Riptide can save this card with Trench of Sunken Treasure. That doesn't really matter to us. Riptide, unlike Lexi with instant speed reload on Voltaire, doesn't have anything to do with that floating resource on our turn. So it does offer fatigue protection for Riptide, but doesn't actually further his aggro plan. The hand we draw into is not good at all. We don't know what this card in Riptide's arsenal is. We know that Riptide had an Endless Arrow. So if we are playing around Endless Arrow, I do want to block it. I'm fine blocking with 3 of the 4 cards in this hand. I would like to Arsenal Art of War. So how I want to block this Ravenous Rabble is just put a Mounting Anger in front of it. Then keep Mounting Anger number 2 and Spreading Flames to block the Endless Arrow, if that is in fact what Riptide has. Instead, Riptide just ends the turn. So either he didn't have the Endless Arrow or chose to save it to set up a 5-card hand. In either case, it puts us in a bad position because we really would have preferred to block the Ravenous Rabble with Mounting Anger number 2 as well, cover that 2 damage, and on our turn, we could pitch Art of War to attack with Emberblade and Arsenal with Spreading Flames. Instead, what we're going to do is pitch our Spreading Flames to attack with Mounting Anger, and then Arsenal Art of War. I'm not trying to play around a fatigue game here. Maybe I should be, and the fatigue line would be pitching both reds to attack with Emberblade. But that isn't something I care about doing. I'm still just trying to set up the biggest turns and deal the most damage that we can. The hand we draw into is not great for an Art of War. We are missing a blue that we would really want to use to pop off with this hand. We also are not in a position where we want to banish really anything. If we were going to play Art of War, we would pitch our Salt the Wound, banish our Ronin Renegade, but what we can do instead is just attack with Ronin, Brand, CNC. Riptide on some instant speed nonsense, which is a really cool line for him, but ultimately this is just damage. Looking at 5 from the Sikkim Shot, 3 from the Give and Take, and drawing a card to Arsenal with Ponder, that's fine. We're just going to take all this damage. It's vanilla damage. The 8 damage is relevant for sure. We are falling behind on life, but our crackback is going to be solid. We aren't impacted by the frailty at all. Still not looking to Art of War. Notably, nothing in our hand will trigger Inertia Trap. So not at risk of losing this Art of War by just sending the hand. Not looking to break Pouncing Links here, just looking to disrupt whatever Riptide is trying to do. He chooses to trench the Arsenal card, very likely take 6 from the Command and Conquer. We still have to deal with a 3-card hand, but we are at least evening out that life difference. Another just bad Art of War hand. Here we have the Endless Arrow coming for 5 with a card in Riptide's hand. I don't think we're supposed to block this. I think we just take the 5 on our turn. We play out the hand. We can even pick up Phoenix Flame number 2 from discard and get that in as well, ending with a Lava Burst. It isn't an incredible turn cycle for us. It's just a 4-card 14, which is above rate, but not crazy for FaB. But considering that Riptide doesn't have an action point for this, for a follow-up to the Endless Arrow, and already has a card in hand, This is just damage. There's no on hit. There's no threat of future damage if this Endless Arrow hits. So I really disagree with this block here. I'm not entirely sure what I was putting Riptide on, but there is no follow-up. The only card this could be is a reaction, and I don't care about that. It's either Razor Reflex, which is still just damage, or Rain Razors, which is just damage. So we give up really 5 points of value between Armor and Lava Burst. We could have kept 5 points of offensive value as well as 2 from our Furnace. So I disagree heavily with that block. We also put ourselves into a position where Inertia Trap just gets us because we don't have the ability to play this Art of War. We are 1 Draconic Link short of being able to activate 5 for free, which would let us pick up and pitch our Phoenix Flame. So we are just going to play out our Rising Resentment and Phoenix Flame number 2, and then we lose our Art of War. Thankfully, it does go back into our deck. Inertia does not put it into discard, so it'll go to the bottom. At some point, we will break Pouncing Links to find a finisher, then we will shuffle, so it's possible that we will put Art of War back to the top. This is all to say that even if this game does not go to Fatigue, we are very likely to see this Art of War again. We could think about breaking Pouncing Links here. We are in a weird spot where the Pouncing Links is only worth 5 damage. Salt the Wound comes in for 4, Tenacity comes in for 4, Lava Burst comes in for 5. We like to get at least 6 points from our Pouncing Links and 7 or 8 if we can. But Riptide is low enough that 5 damage is relevant. We're also going to find ourselves with a 4-card hand. We may need to do blocking based on whatever Riptide does. So this is a situation where it could be right to break Pouncing Links. I'm going to choose not to, and I think that's totally defensible. But we do immediately get punished for it by drawing our other 2 Lava Bursts. The Riptide playing, Premeditate, getting the free reload. Playing a Bolt and Shot for 7 with Go again. I don't know if we can necessarily put Riptide on having Codex here, but we could put Riptide on having a 0 for 4 arrow. So we're kind of damned if we do, damned if we don't. If we block out the Bolt and Shot with Lava Burst, Flamescale Furnace, we get punished by Codex, but we come out ahead from a 0 for 4 arrow. If we don't block the Bolt and Shot, we get punished by a 0 for 4 arrow, but we come out ahead in case of Codex. I think we are supposed to take this damage only because we want to keep a Lava Burst in the deck. So I think this line is defensible, and if this is Codex, we have counterplay for it. The problem is that we are giving up 2 Lava Bursts, our last 2 Lava Bursts, and as I brought up in our sideboard section, we are not running Tenacity. So at this point, we have very few finishers in our deck to find with Pouncing Links. We do get hit by the Codex. Riptide does find the Endless Arrow, which is unfortunate for us. We're going to choose not to block this. Riptide has a Ponder, so we don't prevent him from getting an Arsenal if we block this Endless Arrow. Better to just take the damage. We're going to get to throw a 5-power CNC back at Riptide. Riptide can, of course, protect it with Trench of Sunken Treasure. It just depends on what the rest of his hand looks like. But definitely a bad spot for us. If we had chosen not to block that Bolt and Shot, yeah, we do take more damage, but we at least have the ability to do something like an E-Strike for 5 Go again, bottoming one of those Lava Bursts, and then play the CNC. We have a much stronger crackback. Here we are just looking at E-Strike for 7. looking at what's in our hand, we have a pretty good turn lined up. We're going to be able to Brand, Lava Vein, Emberblade, Phoenix Flame, Snatch. If any of those hit, we can break Pouncing Links and look for our Salt the Wound that is still in our deck. Hoping to catch Riptide without the ability to do much blocking this turn. It's unlikely considering who Riptide is. But we do need to look for something in this game. We need to look for an out because we are in a bad situation at this point. Getting hit by the Frailty Trap is a shame. We are going to take 1 damage. The Emberblade is going to be weaker, but we have no counterplay for that. I do like leading with the Emberblade, lead with the lower power attack. Maybe Riptide blocks and then takes extra damage from Lava Vein Loyalty. We are still looking for that Pouncing Links trigger. We don't get it on the Lava Vein Loyalty. Let's see if we get it on the Phoenix Flame. No, getting hit by another Frailty Trap, the point of life is too bad. But we did benefit from leading with Searing Emberblade. Lava Vein Loyalty is an easy Frailty Trap block, and then we deal 1 less point of damage with our Emberblade. We need to decide if we think that Riptide has a defense reaction for this Snatch, because I would really like to use my Snapdragons here. It's a big risk using the Snapdragons in case Riptide has either of his 2 remaining Sink Belows. Riptide might have Fate Foreseen. There are a number of 4-block reactions that Riptide could have. Boulder Trap would prevent the 4 damage. Take cover. But we are in a bad enough position. I am willing to take the risk. We need to make something happen this turn. And if we do get a reaction out of Riptide, at least he has a 1-card hand. We'll reorder our triggers here, see what we draw off of Snatch before deciding if we're going to break Pouncing Links. Blue Brand is not ideal, but you can see me checking for Tenacity here. I forgot what my sideboard was. My thought was at least, if we grab Tenacity, it's 5. This Brand is very likely to connect because Riptide doesn't want to block it, and if Riptide does, then we get an extra point on Tenacity, which of course we don't have. So we are going to grab Salt the Wound instead. We at least have those. Breaking Mask for 4 is embarrassing, but it isn't as embarrassing as breaking it for Yellow Brand or Blue Mounting Anger or Nasty Surprise. And we do even get a block out of Riptide. We don't have any Command and Conquers to take advantage of Trench not existing, but at least it is a point of armor that Riptide no longer has available. The hand we draw into is fine. We will need to block with it to deal with this Remorseless. We have a few options of how we can do that. We could give our Tiger Stripe Shuko and our Lava Vein Loyalty. The problem is the 2 Spreading Flames and Snatch we have left are not great between the 3 of them. So what I would rather do is block with Lava Vein and a Spreading Flames, then we attack with Snatch and arsenal our 2nd Spreading Flames. The Snatch doesn't have bonus power, so there is no opportunity for Riptide to give us inertia. We are going to maybe get to set up a 5-card Spreading Flames turn. It really depends a lot on what Riptide is doing. We need to preserve life total so that we don't just die to a trap. So 6 is above the threshold of where I want to be, but we are quickly approaching, I would say 4 is the minimum that I'd like to have against a Riptide. That's where I would feel comfortable. 3 or anything less than that, I'm feeling very in danger. Battering Bolt for 6 is definitely something we need to block. And I think how we need to block this is we need to give our Lava Vein Loyalty and our Tiger Stripe Shuko, we go to 5. On our turn, we'll pitch our Mounting Anger to Spreading Flames, Emberblade, Blaze Headlong, then we'll pick up Phoenix Flame and bottom it to E-Strike for 7. Going to 5 is fine. I'm pretty confident that we aren't going to get more than one trigger out of Shuko at this point, so giving it up on blocks to get us more damage seems totally worth it to me. Instead, I am going to block 6 from hand. We're going to preserve that life total and hold on to armor, but we're dealing so much less damage this turn that I don't think that's worth it. We're going to get our Spreading Flames, Emberblade, Blaze Headlong, Phoenix Flame for 2, but that Phoenix Flame could be for 7 instead, so we're losing 5 points of damage, and all we did was preserve 1, 3 if you want to count Shuko as life total as well. But we are on the offensive here, so I don't think this was worth it. Spreading does eat a Fate Foreseen. That's fine, that is value gained for us. We'll lead with Blaze Headlong. I think this is maybe wrong. I think this should have been Emberblade first to play around Frailty Trap. I believe Riptide still has one. Here, Take Cover is just 0 for 4. Riptide has a card in Arsenal and a hero power, so the reload is totally worthless. Come in with Emberblade and then finish up with Phoenix Flame. So we do get an Inertia Trap from Riptide, which covers the Emberblade. Phoenix Flame is going to come in for 2, but imagine if Phoenix Flame came in for 7. We don't kill Riptide, but we get the Perch Grapplers and the New Horizon, and by getting New Horizon, we also get Riptide's Arsenal. So we put Riptide to 2, and Riptide has no counterplay to our turn because he has no cards. This Intoxicating Shot doesn't happen. We would have been in a much better position from going down to 5 from that Battering Bolt. Here we are going to put a Warmonger's Diplomacy in front of the Intoxicating Shot. We'll take 1 point of damage so that we can get the Courage, which is going to give us 1 extra point on our turn. Our question is, do we play or save this Art of War? Considering that we have a Quicken, I'm pretty inclined to play it. When we have Go Again for whatever attack comes first, it's pretty unlikely that we're going to draw something that bricks. So instead, now we have another choice. Do we play this second Art of War, or do we save it, or do we pitch it to Phoenix Flame? It's a tough one. With only 1 resource, it is much more likely that we brick on our draw. We could draw 2 more 0 for 3s and have an incredible turn. We could also draw some blues and have a worse turn. So I think opening with the Ronin Renegade here is okay. We're going to send Ronin for... Well, this is an interesting position. So my initial thought is let's send Ronin Renegade for 5. But I think what we should do instead is send Emberblade for 4 with Go Again. Emberblade will get the Courage buff, and having 2 attacks with breakpoints is going to be harder for Riptide to deal with than 1 attack with 5 power and 1 attack with no breakpoint. So I actually didn't occur to me when I was playing the game, but I do think that opening with Emberblade is a better line than Ronin Renegade. Ronin does get 2 cards, which it likely would have done anyway. But the Emberblade now gets blocked with just Perch Grapplers. Now imagine if Emberblade had 4 power and Riptide goes down to 1. Here we are going to pitch the Art of War. We're going to pick up and play Phoenix Flame. Riptide seems pretty committed to keeping these 3 cards, such that he took damage from the Emberblade instead of just giving us a card from hand. So it's really important to me that I take a card out of Riptide's hand rather than setting up this Art of War. We just need to survive. Bullseye Bracers here being used to load the Endless Arrow. We can block this with Shuko and Salt the Wound. On our turn, we can Rising Resentment, Emberblade, Phoenix Flame, Arsenal, Art of War. Without Courage and Quicken, I feel a lot less good about trying to do a tricky Art of War play, leading with Art of War and just hoping that we draw well. And we did get some value out of taking that 3rd card out of Riptide's hand. The Premeditate there is a free reload, and Riptide doesn't need to use the Bullseye Bracers. It's also just 3 more damage. And if we were at 2 right now, I would feel a lot worse about our position. Here I am going to do a tricky Art of War play. We're going to banish one of the 2 Phoenix Flames in our discard. I think this is fine because Riptide can 1-card block the Resentment, then the Emberblade, and finally take 1 point from the Phoenix Flame, and then crack back with a 3-card hand that I really don't want Riptide to have. Here, we are forcing Riptide to give us additional cards, as Riptide needs to have 4 block reactions to cover the Spreading Flames, and will need to give us another card to stop the Brand with Cinderclaw. So what are we looking to do here? We are just going to play the Spreading Flames. We don't get to play the Brand with Cinderclaw, that's right. But what having 1 floating resource does for us is it lets us play around Tripwire Trap or Boulder Trap, so that we are either preventing extra damage or forcing Riptide to give us more cards on defense. Pitfall Trap is the damage one. So we do get to pay to prevent the 2 damage. Spike Pit Trap is just block value. We don't trigger it, so we aren't going to take any damage from it. And we just need to deal with Riptide's 2-card hand. Command and Conquer, we're going to cover this up with 3 cards. I really don't want to go to 2 here, and we're going to come back in with a Snatch, hoping that Riptide doesn't have a 4 block and has to give us 2 cards to prevent death. Just hoping to get lucky. We are running a little low on cards in our deck. Fatigue's still an option, but with Riptide at 1, I'm convinced the game will end before Fatigue. Second Command and Conquer coming in for 6. We don't get to cover this one up as easily, which means that we are going to give 2 cards for the CNC. And that is going to be Nasty Surprise and Blaze Headlong. On our turn, we get to Rising Resentment, Emberblade, Phoenix Flame, hopefully take 3 cards out of Riptide's hand, and leave him with just 1, which he hopefully can't use. It's unlikely that Riptide wouldn't be able to reload an arrow and shoot it off on his turn, but who knows. Notably, Riptide does still have a Codex. That 1-card play could come back to bite us. Depending on what we draw, we still have decent options to deal with that. This 4-power Phoenix Flame is really doing work for us. 4 points of value on this bad boy. And Nothing from Riptide puts us in a good position to just play out the hand. Leading with Rising Resentment or Mounting Anger, I don't think matters all that much. Better to sandbag the 4-power Mounting Anger until later in the turn. This should have been Emberblade to play around Frailty Trap at the same time. This Mounting Anger would take 2 defense reactions to cover if one of them was Frailty Trap. Tripwire Trap here is not something we need to pay for because we don't care about the on-hit from Mounting Anger. The Tripwire Trap is covering the Mounting Anger and the on-hit is Death. So we aren't going to pay for this. We are going to pay for our Emberblade instead. It's very likely that we're stripping Riptide's hand here. Phoenix Flame is going to get followed up by Nasty Surprise. We also do keep a Nasty Surprise in case we need to pay for a Pitfall Trap. Which we aren't going to need to do. We are going to go to 1 from this Inertia Trap. Thankfully, Nasty Surprise does not trigger any of Riptide's traps, so we aren't dead this turn at least. But going to 1 against Riptide, very scary. So it all does just come down to this next hand of cards. We win or lose on this turn. The only thing that we need to consider with this hand is, does Riptide have Frailty Trap or something that triggers off Go Again? The only thing we want to do is not lead with our Phoenix Flame. We need to postpone the Phoenix Flame because all of our attacks have Go Again. If Riptide has a Frailty Trap or a Tar Pit Trap, we die. No matter what, we cannot play around it. The only thing we can play around is Riptide having an inertia-based greater power than its base trap. So we end with the Phoenix Flame. We don't lead with the Phoenix Flame. Which I would normally consider doing in this situation, leading with a Phoenix Flame and following up with the 3-power Flame Call, just to sandbag a little damage, hide some information. But in this case, it really does just come down to what trap does Riptide have. And we see that if we had played the Phoenix Flame first, then we die. So, a little bit of luck on our part that Riptide did not have a Go Again based trap, instead having the bonus power based trap, which nothing in our hand triggered until we get to end the game with Phoenix Flame. Super close game, super tight, easily could have gone the other direction. We definitely learned a few things. Don't sandbag Art of War in this matchup. I continue to do this, saving it for the perfect 5-card hand, and I continue to get punished by Inertia Trap. Additionally, we made a few misplays. The E-Strike that we blocked with, we could have kept. Ended this game much sooner than we did. Losing out on the point of breakpoint damage by not leading with our Emberblade did cost us a few turns. If Riptide had been at 1 instead of 2 for those last few turns of the game, he has to play much more conservatively, and this game ends with a much better outcome for us. We're at a higher life total for sure. These are small changes that we can make in our game plan, but overall, probably do want to bring in Tunic instead of Furnace. This game went to turn 15. We would have gotten at least 4 activations out of our Tunic if we needed them. That could have been really nice. Having the Tunic on that Inertia Trap turn that hit our Art of War would have let us play the Art of War with 1 additional resource. We didn't really even need the Furnace. We didn't block a relevant on hit. We just stopped some damage, which we would have been better off just taking to have more cards in hand. So I think Tunic really is going to be the way to go. Playing 62 cards so that we have extra finishers for pouncing links. Just being aware of how many finishers were left in our deck. We could have played our double Lava Burst turn better to keep one of them in our deck just for pouncing links later to get at least one more point of damage out of links, if not 2 or 3. So we have to play tight in the Riptide matchup. It's a close one. I don't believe that FaB is favored in this, and we need to play better than our opponent. I don't know that we necessarily did that here. But when you run into a Riptide, I hope you do play better than they did, and I hope it's because of this video. So if you liked this, if you learned something, head jab that like button. My comments are always open for any questions or feedback. Again, if you haven't already done so, please consider a subscription to this channel. It's free, it helps me out, but no matter what you do, I will see you back here tomorrow for more daily FaB gameplay. And until then, take care.